Welcome back to Destigmatized Mental Health Podcast, Hope in the Valley series. I'm your host, Ramon Sanchez, alongside my co-host, Dr. Ashleigh Herrera. We want to explore what it takes to break stigmas and rebuild hope in our communities. Again, Dr. Ashleigh Herrera is a licensed clinical social worker, researcher, and founder of Hope in the Valley. Her focus is to expand practical life-saving resources and improve health equity for people impacted by opioid and stimulant use here in Kern County. Each episode, we're going to go ahead and sit down with people that are working in the front lines, doctors, researchers, and community members to talk honestly about what's working, what's not working, and how we can support the health and well-being of our community. For this episode, we've invited two individuals who have taken the unimaginable pain of loss and turned it into a mission of hope for our community. Chris and Loretta LaMedica, the parents of Carlos Marquez, who was tragically lost on March 3rd, 2025. Carlos was 34 years old, and he will be forever 34 in our hearts. For the last 5 years of his life, Carlos struggled with methamphetamine addiction, a battle many families know too well. He was eventually found in an abandoned building, and a toxicology report later confirmed that he was poisoned by fentanyl. Out of that grief, Chris and Loretta have chosen to honor his memory by founding the Carlos Marquez Forever 34 Foundation. They are now dedicated to raising awareness about the fentanyl epidemic and providing other families in our community from experiencing this same devastating loss. We have invited them today to share Carlos' story and talk about the intersection of addiction, grief, and the reality of fentanyl in our neighborhoods. And now, here's our episode. Destigmatized Mental Health Podcast, Hope in the Valley series. I am here with Dr. Ashleigh Herrera and our guest, Loretta and Chris LaMedica. Everyone, welcome to the podcast. And I'll be very honest with everyone and transparent. There is going to be no music on this episode. There is going to be no background effects. It's going to be a really raw conversation between all of us. And what we're here to talk about is to be able to highlight Carlos Marquez Forever 34 Foundation, a 501c3, a local nonprofit-based organization here in Bakersfield. It just focuses on Carlos Marquez, who lost his life on March 3rd of 2025. The time of this recording, it's about a year. It is a year and some days since he lost his life to fentanyl. And we really want to be able to destigmatize this conversation and be able to help families who may be going through similar things. So, Loretta, Chris, thank you so much. Welcome to the podcast, and thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Before we get started, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that, again, we are recording this at the 1-year anniversary of Carlos's passing, and I want to give you so much praise for, and just respect for being here, just choosing to spend this day sharing your story to help others is the definition of turning pain into process. I really can't thank you guys for this. And before we dive in, where can people find you and connect with the Carlos Marquez Forever 34 Foundation?
We have, we're on Facebook under Carlos Marquez 34 Foundation. We're on Instagram also at Carlos Marquez Foundation. And we do have, actually, currently we're working on a website, but you can reach us via email at Carlos Marquez 34fdn@icloud.com, or you can always call us at 661-567-5055.
To start, could you tell us a little bit about who Carlos was beyond his struggles? What was his spirit like? What are the memories that you hold most dear?
I could tell you, as I was sharing earlier, he was just a happy, curious little boy, always since he was little, always came in the room looking for me, always joking, dancing at an early age, always had a basketball, always wanted, come on, Mom, let's sing, let's dance, always wanted to play, loved the outdoors, loved to be outdoors. He would stand at the door and just cry to go out. And, and that just stood with him as he got older. It just stood with him, as he got older. If I let him go outside, he would come back in. What are you guys doing? Check on us. And then he would go back outside. So he was always by me. And I just know that he was such a curious kid, but a good kid, a very good kid, just wanted to do something big in life. And he got that taken away from him. But, But the memory I remember most is just him always coming in while I'm inside, just joking and laughing and helping me sing a song with him or rap a rhyme with him. And so that's kind of the memories I just remember and I hold dear to my heart because, you know, he loved that. That was just him. He always brought light into the room. Why are you guys always so sad? Why are you guys always be happy? You woke up today. Let's go outside. Let's go outside, you know, always, let's go play basketball. Let's go play basketball. And, you know, he was always outside playing basketball.
Still remember the first day he got his first car.
Oh, yeah. And then when he got
the Mercedes Benz, and it had like these fancy wheels and everything on it. And he was just so proud of that. And we were just so excited for him. He had saved up his money and purchased that all on his own. All on his own.
All on his own.
So that was
hard worker. Yeah.
Highlights of Carlos's life.
Yes. I have a picture. I found it. We dug it out. My daughter told me, goes, Mom, don't you remember when brother first bought his car, you know, when he passed? And she's like, look, the pictures. And I have a picture of him and I in front of his car. And I was like, oh my God, I remember. She's like, Mom, remember Mom? And I was like, yeah. He was just a happy kid. He was just really, but curious. He was the one I always had to be like, boy, ice calm boy, sit down. Boy, sit down. He was always the one that just, my older one, I would just look at him. Carlos would test me to the test. My daughter, she would just sit. She knew it. And they would tell him, sit down because if you get in trouble, we're all going to get in trouble. Mom's going to, your baby? No, he was my second. So I have my older son, Ronnie, and then I had Carlos. They're 18 months apart. Okay. And then I have Raylene, who's 28. Yes. And then I have we have a blended family. So beautiful. Yes. So, but he was a good boy. I keep saying that. I like I said earlier, I don't understand how we got here, but I want him to be remembered by how he lived his life and how he loved life, how he loved people. He loved, his spirit of, just belonging with others.
His family.
He loved us. He loved his family. And that's why I know something took him from his family because we were everything to him. Like that's where he found who he was, his identity, you know, in us.
And not by how he died.
And not how he died. You know, that's why I do this. I want people to remember him for who he was, not how he died. I don't want them to remember that. I mean, you know, I want to know he was a good kid, but he had struggles just like we all have in life, you know?
Right. And I think that's a really important point to highlight. And I think Dr. Herrera could speak on this a little bit from our experience as clinical social workers, is that substances usually are a response to a symptom. It's usually because of the fact that they may be going through some anxiety, depression, and it kind of goes into some self-medication in that component. Of course, there are some other components. There's just the social factor, being able to go ahead and the peer pressure component as well. Anything that you want to add, Dr. Herrera?
I think what you guys shared earlier, you know, was that Carlos didn't know that he had been exposed to fentanyl. Mm-hmm. And that's really a big risk in our community, not only in Bakersfield, but, you know, throughout the American West. More and more, we've seen the contamination of the stimulant supply. And people don't know that the drugs that they've usually been using in the past, which affected them one way, now have this deadly life-ending substance because everything you've shared about Carlos says how much he wanted to live, how vibrant a person he was, how connected he was to other people, and that his life was ended prematurely and was totally preventable because he was poisoned. Yes. Right. And he is stolen from the world. Yes. And, you know, your grief from that is unending, as it would be for any parent and family to lose part of their heart. Yes. Yes. And that's why I tell my husband all the time, if fentanyl wouldn't have been here, he would still be alive. And I wish the resources that we're trying to provide to our community were there. Because I know when I first found out, because on March 3rd is what they call his day. They don't have an exact date of death, which I find is right hard to swallow. But they say his date of death is the date they found him was on March 3rd of 2025. And I found out on March 6th, which was a year to a day yesterday, is when they identified him and contacted me. But what I'm saying is that I got a little puzzled there. And what I'm saying is that if the resources that we're providing now and the education to say, hey, this is out there, do believe he would still be here. I truly do. I say that all the time because I provide resources to moms and they're like, I'm going to tell my child. I have parent presentations that I go to schools and they're like, how do you do this? And I tell her, because I don't want you to go through what I'm going through. So you're right. I truly believe that it's such an epidemic in our community. Nobody wants to talk about it. They say, oh, they're just a statistic, a number. But, since 2019, there has been, and if I'm going ahead, let me know, there's been 1,241 deaths in our county, in our community. And that I know of. And one of those were my sons. And they're not numbers. And people keep telling me, oh, they're decreasing, declining, whatever their verbiage. But I said, one is too many. That's someone's life. And my son's in that number. And until it's zero, then we haven't resolved. So I want to be a voice in the community. I want to share what my experience, real life that we live with and say, hey, this is preventable. If I can provide you a fentanyl test strip, if I can provide you Narcan, I'm not saying go out and do the drug. I'm saying, hey, these tools that are legal can help prevent you from losing your life.
I think that's what helped us on the foundation, the Carlos Marquez Forever 34 Foundation. Tell us a little bit about the name. It's extremely, to me, it's extremely special. And I'm sure that it means a lot to you guys.
Well, when I first, let me back up a little bit. When I told you the story about, I didn't feel like I had a purpose anymore. And I cried out to the Lord and I said, what am I going to do? I don't feel like I can live. And that's when he said, we're going to turn what the enemy meant for evil into good. I'm going to turn your pain into purpose. And I'm like, what do you mean my pain into purpose? And I could clear as day. And he says, we're going to not let Carlos's name be made in vain. And I said, well, how do we do that? We're going to always say his name. So I learned, forever means it's a slogan that they use for people who lost their lives to any type of fentanyl poisoning. For overdoses. So I said, well, what great would be to say Carlos Marquez, always say his name, and then add Forever 34. So it was birthed like that. I just said, okay, Carlos Marquez Forever 34. And he goes, babe, that's going to be hard for people to say. I said, no, they'll get it really quick.
It's long.
It's long. So I said, no, I want his name to always be said and remembered. So I said, that's what was birthed to me.
It's a conversation.
And a lot of people will tell me, oh my God, are you guys Latino? Are you guys this? Or, and I'd be like,
the
forever. Yeah. So that's how it was birthed. Just something that I was given. And I always wanted his name to be said. And I love the way you said it, Carlos Marquez. And then the Forever 34 is because he'll be Forever 34. And then the foundation is just, to seal the deal, to say, hey. So that's how it was.
Name's beautiful within itself. In previous episodes, how within the last name, the Latino culture means everything.
Yeah.
And in modern day, just again, we need to acknowledge that modern day, there are blended families.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's not just about where the original name came from. And the fact that the LaMedicas are able to embrace the Marquez.
LaMedica, yes. And that's what it is. And I believe that when we're out in the community and we go to these events at the schools, like the kids see his face and hear his name. And I think they feel connected. I really feel that, because I don't want to, the Latinos, I grew up in a household. We didn't talk about our feelings. We didn't get to express if something hurt us or we just felt something wasn't right. We didn't get to do that. My mom was always, it was the white elephant. No diga eso. Don't talk like that. Don't say that. We just didn't get to express how we felt. Dad was in the superior and mom just kind of followed along, and we didn't get that. So now I just want to be able to tell the community, hey, if something's bothering you or your experience, come out. Let's talk,
Yeah, Loretta, and just so you know that you can speak Spanish here. Dr. Herrera is invited to the carne asada.
Well, my husband doesn't know it too well. Well, he does, but yeah. No, I just, yeah.
But I think touching on that too,
Yeah.
a bit, we just kind of felt like we needed to do something with our pain because we did start to fall into like a pit of despair and wondering why this was all happening. And so we not only felt like we needed to do something, but just not only that, it is to honor Carlos's life and not let him be remembered as the man that was in the abandoned building, like it was portrayed on the news. And that's why we contacted the news. And they were wonderful. They came back out and they did a story on it. And we had a vigil there.
Wow.
And to just give him his name and let him be remembered by he was somebody and that he had a story. And we want other people in the community to know that also, because with this topic, it's not very popular for families and
it's a taboo.
Yeah, we have a lot of families that are real secretive and hush hush. And since we have came out and we refuse to be silent, we have came out. Loretta's had numerous mothers and we've had numerous families come forward, say my brother, my sister, my dad, my mom, my niece, my nephew. There's all kinds of families that somebody knows somebody if they haven't already been affected by fentanyl in our community. And so we just feel like it's a great need and that Carlos's life is not going to be in vain. That's kind of how the Carlos Marquez Forever 34 Foundation was birthed. And we've made it our mission to move forward with that. And because it's become part of who we are.
Yeah. You're sharing how Carlos, I mean, the news had to, the news spin it in a certain way. And they kind of made it seem like, oh, this is just an individual that lost his life. He was using. However, there is a person. This is a son. This is a human. This is not just an individual that, was using fentanyl and died. Carlos, I mean, he went to Foothill High. He wanted to be an athlete. Before we started recording, you were talking about how he wanted to play basketball, and that was huge for him. How do these memories of him on the field or in school help you keep his legacy alive today?
I think I told my husband the other day how I keep his memory alive is going out and just sharing who he was. That he was a somebody and he had dreams and goals just like we all do. And so that's how I find some of my peace is when I go out and share who he was as a person. And that's kind of where I find it at. Because like you said earlier on the news, what really soothed my soul and it hurt me. And I don't know if I shared this with you guys. I heard it on the news. I had seen my son February 15th. And we talked and he's all, Mom, I'm coming home. I need to change because Carlos struggled a little bit. We'll get into that topic too, the last 5 years. But I had seen it on the news because he had told me on the 15th, I'm staying on Forest Street, Ma, with a girl. But I don't watch the news. I leave the TV on. So I heard it. There was a man found in an abandoned building on Forest. And my soul just felt something. And I called him and he's like, no, babe, we just seen him. I'll go look for him. And the reason I get on this topic is because when the news reported it, I seen just the clipping, they found a body. But when I heard the news reporter get on and say it on one of the 5 o'clock news, it said, there was a homeless man found in an abandoned building. But the moral of the story was the abandoned building.
The vacant buildings that were owned by a
specific individual. And it really, I told Chris, when did we come to a society
care more about buildings
that a human life, despite the circumstances of how he got there or how he lived his life, how are you going to dictate or say, that the moral of the story is the building is more important than a human life? When did we come to a society? So I had told Chris, I said, this is insane. I'm calling that news people. There, he was somebody. He was a son. He was my son. He was loved. He had family who cared. And that's where my little clipping came in and says, It's their story. They all have a story, and it's their story to tell, and it's not our story to assume. If you want to know it, come talk to me, and I'll share, the story with you. But that's what fueled me too. And I was like, I got to let them know that he was not just a homeless man found in an abandoned building, so.
Dr. Herrera, the people that you've gotten to talk to, being able to be with Hope in the Valley, you've gotten to meet so many people that have gone through very similar stories and struggles. Is this a common situation from your experience, from what you've been able to see with Hope in the Valley?
I think, unfortunately, as a society, we want to say that a substance use disorder is a moral failing. And then if you have a substance use disorder, that's a choice. You don't want to get better. And then somehow you're less worthy, less deserving. And if you wanted to fix it, tomorrow you'd wake up and it would be gone and you'd be back to being the most productive version of yourself. And there's limited understanding of the disease of addiction and what's needed in community, which is that we increase awareness, that we have these conversations, and that having the conversations and naming and acknowledging what's going on with our family members in these struggles that could end their lives is what's going to save their life. And you sharing, in my own family and in your community, people don't want to talk about this because then the fear is people are going to judge us. They're going to reject us. They're going to reject our child. And because folks are trying so hard to protect people by holding this information within the family, as a consequence, they can't access the resources they need to save the lives of their family members and also to get the support that they need, because it does take a toll not only on the individual with the substance use disorder, but their family members to watch them struggle. And when we come together, we have more access to resource and more power to make change and demand. We need the schools to do something. We need the counties to provide more services. We need better laws that actually support treatment, instead of pushing towards criminalization, because no one gets better. No, in jail or prison. No, they just find out how to do things. None of us more sneakier or we get. Exactly.
With that being said, I'll chime in.
Yeah.
Because that's where Carlos was at. He had been on probation, and we had spoken to his probation officer, and we had asked his probation officer, is any way possible we could get him into some kind of a treatment facility, because this is around the time when he started experimenting with the methamphetamine.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if his hands were tied or if that went back onto the laws or the judges or who what level that falls on, but there was nothing ever done. And any time Carlos didn't follow through with what he was supposed to with his probation, they would put him in jail for a few days and then he'd get right back out and kind of just resort back to the same things.
And never got the help that he needed in that process, right? Yes, because as a family, I'll chime in too. Yes, Ms. Dr. Herrera. And as a family, you can only do so much, and then they get older. So we're like, hey, you guys have a little bit of, we're always going to be his parents. But you have a little bit of more authority right now because he's on probation because he did something he wasn't supposed to. So, hey, let's use that little bit. There has to be a law somewhere down there that, hey, he's using marijuana. He's now starting to use methamphetamine. Like, isn't there like a home or somewhere you can put him in to say, hey, let's get him in 1 year, 2 year, and maybe early on it could happen, but we needed more help then. And I even told Chris, and I'm not downing anything because we all have our flaws. We all have room for improvements, and but I feel like sometimes some of the entities did fail me when I did reach out, when I realized Carlos was starting to have this problem that I felt like was out of my control, and they could have had a little more authority, but nobody helped. Nobody helped me. And so that's why I now want to be a voice to say, how can I help? Let me connect myself. Like you said, I talked to someone yesterday. We're like links. And the more we link and we collaborate with these organizations such as you, Dr. Herrera, and the school system, we link together, we become stronger and stronger. We make a larger impact in our community. And as a grieving mom, that's what I want to do. I do it because I want other people to get the help that I didn't get or my family didn't get, because like you said, it's a family thing. It's affected our older son. It's affected my daughter. It's our grandkids. The addiction that Carlos struggled with for 5 years, it didn't just affect him. I had to hear it from my kids all the time. You're always looking for him. You're always doing this. You take him home, Mom, you get him. So addiction doesn't just affect the person. It affects us as a family. And now, so as we struggle for 5 years, now we're struggling that he's gone. And so now I'm picking up the pieces for my older son, my daughter, my grandkids, Sunshine. Why did Diego Curtis have to pass away? Why couldn't we help him? You get your little grandson or your granddaughter, so how could I answer those questions by saying, hey, I'm going to raise awareness. I'm going to get in these schools and I'm going to tell them that there's resources that I can try to do to help your child not go through.
And I think the awareness for all drugs is great, because Carlos needed help with that back when in high school, when he started smoking the marijuana.
Yes.
It led to, some of the harder drugs. But for the record, just wanted to be known that Carlos was not a fentanyl user.
Right. No, he wasn't.
Fentanyl poisoned. I think that's what's happening to most of the today.
And I think, sadly, your story isn't unique, which is what's really the tragedy, is that there's been a lack of awareness, in many communities, because these conversations aren't happening about what's happened to the stimulant supply, that it's been contaminated with fentanyl. And then folks who are not even trying to use fentanyl end up being poisoned and die. Yes. And it is a preventable overdose. And it's just, I as a parent, I can't even imagine what you've gone through to lose the light of your life. Yes. And no one else has to. And that's why I think your work is so important, that you're going out and having these discussions, and we're providing education to folks. Hey, you're not ready to take all these steps yet. Or there are barriers in our community because we know we're under-resourced here. We don't have enough of the structures and support that people need to access treatment when they're ready. So in the meantime, let's have these conversations with families.
Yes.
This is happening. Yeah. This could be in the drugs. Talk about Narcan. Talk about the drug testing strips. What are some ways that we can give people immediate tools to get them from one day to the next while we wait for that miracle where they're ready to start a path towards recovery? Yes. Yes. And give them that opportunity, because it was taken from Carlos. Yes, I agree.
And I believe that's why they call fentanyl the silent killer, because you don't know it's there. You just don't know it's there. And I believe Carlos didn't know it was there.
I believe it too.
Whether it was given to him intentional or unintentional, it's just, you can't taste it. You can't smell it.
You can't.
And that's the deceptiveness of it, and it's not just showing up in the pill form anymore like it was back in 2019, 2020. It's showing up in the powder form, liquid form. Nowadays it's in the vape pens. The kids are vaping. It's coming in strawberry, pineapple.
Yes.
So I think it's very important to have this conversation. And with that being said too, I believe that is one of our goals in the future, is for us to have a place. And that is what we're working towards now. The Carlos Marquez Forever 34 Foundation is having our own facility, our own place, where we can create a safe place where people can come and we can have these conversations, because so many families and people in the community, they're going through the same pain and hurts we are. And, they're finally starting to come out and talk.
And a lot of them don't want to talk like we're talking. So I feel in some senses I'm being a voice, because I always ask, can I share a little bit of your story? Yes, please do. I never want to breach anybody's confidentiality. So many don't want to talk about it. Like I have, people will bring me memorial pictures. Can you put this on your memorial wall? Can you do this and some of them would be like, no, but I don't want him to be remembered like that. Or I don't want her to be remembered like that. That's not, and I'm saying it's not remembering them how they died. It's remembering who they were. That's not define who they were. So that's why I tell him, so many people don't want to have these conversations. I'm going to have them because I live it, and I don't want parents to go through this. No, I don't want anybody to go through this. It's horrible. Like I can be just driving down the street and I break down. I have to pull over and I don't drive that much anymore because I have those moments. It's only been a year and I'm jumped into doing this. I don't know how, but I know I have to do it. I know I get up and I do it. But you're right, Dr. Herrera, nobody wants to have these awkward, uncomfortable conversations. So I will be the voice for the community and say, hey, look, I'll raise the awareness. I'll educate, because knowledge is power. If we know better, we do better. I'll come out and I'll connect with whatever organizations that want to collaborate with our foundation. I'll come out. I'll bring the hope. I'll create a non-judgment, safe place where you guys want to come and talk, not being recorded, not being, feeling like you're going to be judged or looked down at. That's what I want to do to help you get through it. Because there's mamas, that don't want to talk about it. They want to talk to me about it because they want to know how I continue, how I could do what I'm doing in the midst of losing my son. And these are moms that already lost their kid 5 years, 6 years, but the days don't matter because it seems like yesterday. Right? You go into a room to look for your child, or, hey, no matter how old they get, where is he? Are you looking for them?
Yeah. And that's the reality as to why Destigmatize is partnering with Hope in the Valley and being able to have these these really real conversations, because the purpose of my podcast is to be able to destigmatize all of these taboos. And Hope in the Valley is jumping in, and they've decided to commit to these conversations. And now that you guys are here, we're able to speak about the realities of fentanyl.
Yeah.
With that said, there are many people that still use the term overdose, but you use the term poison to describe what happened to Carlos. Can you speak to why that distinction is so important when we talk about fentanyl?
The reason I say, I'll be honest first, I always thought overdose was overdose, no matter if you took a substance, any illicit substance, that it was overdose. But I realized and I learned that overdose is when you're taking something more than what it's prescribed to you. And then your body doesn't take it and you overdose. But with fentanyl, with fentanyl, with poisoning, it's taking a substance that you think is like a methamphetamine. Taking Carlos, for instance, when he thought he was taking methamphetamine, but it was laced with an unknown substance, which was fentanyl. So therefore, it's called poisoning. So it's the small amount. Yeah. So there's a difference. The overdose is you know what you're taking and you're just consuming more than what you're supposed to. Poisoning, you think you're taking methamphetamine, but that's not what it was. It was contaminated, laced, however you want to verbalize it. I say laced with an unknowing substance. You took a substance that was unknowingly laced with fentanyl. So that's, in my mind, that's how I had to that's how I distinguish the difference. Right. Whether I'm not a medical profession, I think that's very accurate, right? Exactly like you guys are saying. You thought that you were consuming one thing, and in fact, there was something else in it, and it is poisonous. It will kill you. And so I think that understanding is really important for folks when they're thinking about what's happening, when they're thinking about the risk, when they're thinking about what we need to do as community to come together to increase awareness, to increase access to overdose prevention tools. And so critically, that's what we've seen across the country, driving up the numbers of preventable overdose deaths, is that folks were poisoned with fentanyl. And we have to have those conversations. I was wondering, because you're sharing a lot about other parents coming to you in their grief and trying to figure out, how do I move forward in a life where my child is no longer here with me, in body, but while they may still be with me in spirit. Well, what are the messages that you're sharing with parents earlier on, right? When it's that they're young people like Carlos, where they're just starting to use something like marijuana or other drugs, when they're so vulnerable to how their life could go in so many directions. What kind of messages do you share with parents, for adolescents, at this period of really high risk? So I always tell, because we do parent presentations at the schools, and I tell the parents, be observant, open communication. Don't, I always say, have that honest, open communication, and be able to let them know you care, but keep aware of the signs. Is there any different signs? Are they being a little secretive? Are they just kind of withdrawing from you? And be able to know that and talk to them and just tell them, hey, have you heard about what's going on out there? So I always tell them, just be aware of the surroundings, the environment, open communication. I had that with him, but like I said, his was more into adulthood. So, but like you said, younger, I always tell the mothers that, well, what can I know if my child's doing? Just watch their friends, watch where they're going, what they do. There's not really a right or wrong. It's just kind of learning your child, learning their habits. If there's any change in because you know your child, you know when they're happy, they're sad, or they're just cranky, they're hungry. And you just got to learn it and then know how to communicate without judging them, or accusing them. And so that's what I tell the moms. She's like, how would I know if my child? I said, first, do you know what fentanyl is? I always share, does anybody know what fentanyl? No, we don't. And I explain to them, have you had a conversation with your children? Do they know what it is?
I think awareness alone, it just speaks volumes, because people, I read an article that 50% of the youth don't really know what fentanyl is. And so I think just telling people about raising the awareness about what fentanyl is and the dangers of it, I think it makes people think twice next time their buddies or somebody might offer them a pill or something, they don't know what it is. And so that alone just helps a lot.
Yeah.
But to the families that have lost loved ones to it already, we do a lot of listening, we do a lot of sharing, a lot of encouraging, and trying to just figure it out all together. That's kind of where we're at today, right? We don't claim to know it all. We're learning as we go, and we get a lot of our information nationally. It's hard to get a lot of the information locally here in Kern County. We get some of it from the Kern County Coroner's Office, but a lot of our information, it comes from the CDC or the DEA. That's where we get a lot of our facts, but a lot of that is nationally. But, we do have some of the numbers, going back to the overdose topic as opposed to poisoning. And I did some research for 2024. We don't have the full numbers for 2025 yet. Obviously, there's still a count, but it was over 79,000 people overdose in 2024. And it said that 74% of that was fentanyl related. So if you take that's a high number, as 48,000, 50,000 people. You break that down into a 12-month period. This is just my mind. And that's over 6,000 people a month. And then you break that into a 30-day period and a monthly period, it's over 200 people a day. So I know that there's been conversation before, but that's like an airplane falling out of the sky every day, 200 people. And it's like, what are we doing about this? And I just truly believe we have to do better. And I believe when we know better, we do better. And that's why we want to be that voice. And we don't want to be silent about what is going on, because it's just not, it's not a fun thing to go through.
I also wonder, because in our community, we have some unique challenges. We've got a lot of folks who immigrate here to Kern County, work in agriculture to be able to support the whole country to be fed, and they're Spanish speaking only. What do you think is important in terms of reaching out to Spanish speaking families, making sure that they're able to understand this information and these kinds of risks that are coming up all the time, right? Like you said, there's fentanyl, then there's xylazine, then there's nitazines, right? The drug market is evolving all the time. And so the risk is ever changing. And how do we help families keep up with what's going on to keep their young people safe and alive?
So when we do the Hispanic, we have an interpreter. I don't personally have one. I have been very blessed and honored when I go to speakings, they'll ask me, do you need an interpreter? And I'm like, yeah.
Most of the families are.
And I don't even know a percentage. And I told Chris, we need to look at a percentage because can't give you a percentage right now. But majority of them are Spanish speaking. They speak English, but their primary language is Spanish. And so we get an interpreter. I'm learning it. I can't say some of the terminology. I'm barely learning how to say it in English, in grieving as a mom. But we have an interpreter there. They've been graceful to give us an interpreter. And their thing is, my daughter doesn't do fentanyl. She does marijuana. And then we have to but we're able to reach them. So what I just recently found out, when we hand out pamphlets and little cards, I'm starting to see if I can get them translated into Spanish. Yeah. I'm working with one of the, she's like an avid, she works at the school, Del Oro, Alice, and she does like for at-risk kids who get caught with drugs. She's Spanish, so she's been introducing me, hey, you can find this in Spanish too. So I'm learning that, but the population, we just get an interpreter. I have a friend that goes with us to events. She's very fluent in Spanish. I speak it, Spanglish, it's gone away from me, but she'll help me and I'll tell. So she'll stand there and she'll interpret it. And a lot of them understand. It's so amazing, Dr. Herrera. You could talk to them, my story in English. They'll tell me, sí entiendes todo. They'll tell me, I understand everything you said in English. And I'm like, wow. Because I think it's heartfelt. Mm-hmm. As a parent, as a mother, as a father, as an aunt, as a grandmother, they're like, I understand todo lo que they tell me. I understand everything you told me in English. Mm-hmm. Or they'll tell her to stop. Oh no, I understand. I entiende. See, I understand it. And so, but that's what we do. We just, if they don't understand it, we get an interpreter to relate our message. And then we're just trying to get paperwork, the curriculum we give in Spanish as well.
That's outstanding. I think that's so responsive to the needs in our community.
Yes.
And, certainly a value that I know Ramon and I have is, that things are linguistically accessible, because you can't leave whole populations out, especially folks who are really at high risk and need the most support because they're working so hard. And, they need to be able to provide their children with the information and support, and then the awareness of the signs to look out for, so they can support them. And even as they're aging, right? How can I, as a parent, show up if my young person, if my middle-aged person, my child across their life course is struggling with addiction? What do I do next? And so that kind of brings me to that conversation about how have you centered stimulants as part of this conversation around risk? Because we know that there is this potential for contamination or it being laced with fentanyl.
When you say stimulants,
stimulants like methamphetamine or cocaine?
Sure.
Is that part of some of the conversations that you're talking to folks that,
all the time? Mm-hmm. We had a lady contact us from San Bernardino. Mm-hmm. Her son was 24 years old. She sent a picture for us to put on our memorial wall. Mm-hmm. And he was working, doing great kid. Had some issues, some problems. He went out for a night with his buddies. They start drinking. Somebody offers a line of cocaine. It ends up being pure fentanyl instead. And that's it. It's just one bad decision, one bad choice, and it's all over with. And so it's happening more and more. That's what we're seeing more and more, right? Mm-hmm. That none of the stimulants, none of the drugs, the methamphetamine, the cocaine, the things like that out there anymore. The majority of it is all contaminated, it's all being laced.
Yes, it's no longer pure. It's just contaminated. It's all.
And it's just a matter of getting that one wrong dose. We've also been out on the streets too, around the area where Carlos would hang out, and spoke to some of the people out on the streets, did out Narcan to them and listened to their stories. And a lot of them had told us they're not fentanyl users.
Right.
And they're trying to be stimulated through some of these drugs, but they can't, because they said it's all laced with fentanyl. And so they find themselves falling asleep. They find their bodies aching because I guess that's what the fentanyl does to the body. And so, yeah.
And it's so amazing because, not amazing, it's just, I told my husband, this drug, it's affecting all walks of life. Mm-hmm. And people are losing their life because of someone else doing something, the drug. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I lost my train of thought. Help me out here.
Yeah, I think that it has changed the conversation, because before it was easy for people to say there's one type of person that has this problem.
Yeah.
Right. Where in fact, people struggling with a substance use disorder can walk all walks of life, all races, ethnicities, language, age, ability, disability, different types of socioeconomic status. It doesn't matter. And the consequence will be the same for everyone, which is the loss of a life that didn't need to happen. Yeah. And I think coming together and being so brave, and and being so brave in the midst of your grief to share and say that I have to speak up. I have to let other people know that this risk is there and what can they do to reach their hand out to their child, no matter what the age of the child is.
Yes.
So that they can walk through this together is so important.
Yes.
To saving lives, but also offering that hand to folks who already have been tragically stripped of their child from their life, and saying we have to come together and keep walking forward. Because if we don't, the outcome will be the same for someone else, and no one else should have to go through this.
Yeah, and the majority of people that we are talking to, or we're hearing the stories, and they're unaware that it's there. So I think in community's eyes or society's eyes, a lot of times when you mention drugs or you mention fentanyl, they think of the man in the alley or the person out on the street. And that's the misconception that we're having here, is that most of what's happening with this fentanyl is it's the teenager in school. It's the athlete that struggled, that got a pain and got a peel, or it's a person that went out with the buddy for a night on the town and ended up trying something for the first time, and then it ends their life. But also that we are working with families right now where there are babies involved, and so we have where a child got into one of their parents' was sitting with one of the parents, and there was some paraphernalia in the home, and the baby touched it and got into it. And so and that's how potent that this stuff is. And so we just want everybody to be aware of the dangers and the risk of it, whether they're users or non-users.
Because I think we come to a community where it's beyond just the drug addict anymore, or the person addicted to a substance. This is not the case anymore with this fentanyl. From me being out there now, just since the time I've been out there, but less than a year, maybe a year now, these are kids that never had any struggles like Carlos did, experienced marijuana. They never did drugs in their life. Straight A students, gone out with their buddies, gone to, bachelor parties, or just gone out on a night on the town with some girlfriends to try to just, regroup. And, it was a social,
the young girl that was given
well, I meet so many people and I have to write them down. But so before I get to that story, it's not just the addict or the person that's struggling with abuse anymore. It's affecting, just like I said, all walks of life. I met a mother the other day. She lives out of state, and she said, I don't know her story details because we just kind of text really quick. And I told her we'll sit down and talk. And she said, my daughter was 14 years old. She took what she thought was a Tylenol, and it was laced with it. Her girlfriend, they can be all the counterfeit pills, are real risk as well. And I think what you raise is really important. And again, goes back to what Ramon's doing, is it's destigmatizing this substance, because it could affect anyone, if they get a counterfeit pill, if they thought they were using one substance and in fact it's contaminated or poison. But in the process of that, we have to change what we're talking about. No one's just a drug addict. No, these are all people's children, right? And no one's life is worth more than another. And we have to come together in community to say, what can we do to prevent overdose? And if that's difficult conversations, if that's overdose prevention tools like Narcan, naloxone, and drug test strips, right? That's what we have to do. And then if that's also, we need to improve treatment in our community. I can't tell you how many people will say, they're struggling with a stimulant use disorder, primarily methamphetamine. What can I do? I'm so tired. I feel so sick. I want my life back. And we're trying to encourage folks to access, the tools that are available here. Like now there's the Recovery Incentives Program, which is contingency management, so that folks get paid to produce negative urine samples, right? That I vaguely heard about that. I'm like, but that's the good standard of treatment. There's a lot of science behind it, how it helps to rewire the brain through conditioning.
And then how do we help people know that that's available and to access that resource so that we can get them the best treatment for a stimulant use disorder? Because now, sadly, not only is it, like you said, I thought it affected his heart and that he'd had a heart attack. We know, it's so toxic to the body and to the heart. And then in time, it could prematurely end someone's life. But now with the contamination, people are dying suddenly because they're being poisoned. So the risk is so high to stop as soon as possible. So how do we help them to have these conversations around contingency management? Things like, are there different avenues with medication for addiction treatment, like a Vivitrol shot that could help someone decrease their cravings and their use of methamphetamine, right? And how do we connect people to who they need to talk to so they can take these steps, right? When there is so much stigma around saying, hey, I'm having a problem.
For sure.
And I think so many of them, like I've had the conversation my husband mentioned earlier, we have gone out in the community, like where Carlos was at, where he would always go when he was and they would say, nobody listens to us. I tried, he would even tell me, Mom, I don't know why he would, he would say, Mom, I tried to go ask, if they could help me get a place so I could do better. Cause, he always wanted that independence, coming home. And he said, nobody would listen to me, Mom. Nobody would listen to what I want. If I need help, if I say, get out of here, they're just another addict. But you're right, Dr. Herrera, how could we connect that? Like, that's why I told my husband, I want to get a place and create a place where they can come in and just sit there and let me listen to them. And my motto is, how can I help you? Tell me what you think you need to get the help you need.
We're trying to work on that prevention side.
Yeah, because we're always trying to tell them what to do. And that's what I did with Carlos for a lot of years. And I'm speaking from experience, what I thought he should do. You need to do this, boy. You need to do this. You need to do this. And I turned it towards the end and I asked him, what is the help and I think I beat myself up, but maybe I was too late. Maybe I should have started that early.
How can I help you?
How can I help you? Instead of telling him what he needed to do. So I think if
people want help, but they don't know.
Yeah, if we approach them, I believe I'm not saying it's going to work, but I believe, how can I help you? What is the help that you think you need that's going to get the help to get you off of what you're on? So and I think if we change that may be something, because we're so quick to say, you need to do this, you need to do this. Oh, yes.
It couldn't be more right.
Exactly.
And I appreciate that through your lived experience, you've done that, right? Which is something we work so hard in our Masters of Social Work program to teach our students, is that you have to be person-centered and start with where your client's at.
Yeah.
And that's asking questions about exactly like you're saying, what are your hopes?
Yeah.
For working together? What would you want to get out of our time together? What are you seeking to improve? What of these feel the most important? What could we start working on together? What pieces are you ready to do? Right? So that we're not getting out ahead of the people we're trying to help, whether that's a family member or a client, but really centering it in, what are they able to do? What are they ready to do? And how can we walk with them on that journey? And I think as a parent, that's a really big shift, because all day long, I'll tell my girl, pick up your shoes, put that away. Right. That's how we're giving direction.
Always.
And that's how we think we're guiding them to become, young people in the world who are able to care for themselves. And we have to slow down in some of those moments and really think about, especially when someone's struggling with, the chronic disease of addiction, right? How can I best help you? What are you ready to do? And then not all parents know what are the resources, because they're not, they're not providers. They're not addiction medicine specialists.
Yeah.
You don't know until you have to know. And then sometimes it's too late.
And and essentially you guys kind of hit the question that I really wanted to ask, which was, for the parents that are currently in the thick of it, exhausted and trying to navigate the system that doesn't listen to these individuals. I literally went through this week where I advocated for a guy that they did so wrong. And I was just, oh man, you guys should have seen me that last week. I was not friendly. I was not, I wasn't, I was advocating for this guy that no one else would advocate for. So for the parents that are going, or parents, family members that are in the thick of it, exhausted, trying to navigate the system, what is one of the things that, you know now that you wish that you would have known back then?
Like as I told Dr. Herrera just a few minutes ago, asking, what do you think you need to help? What kind of help do you want?
Meet them where they're at.
Yes, because like I said, we're so quick to say, do this, you need to do this, but their mind is being contaminated with the substance that they're taking. So if we kind of give them that authority back and say, okay, how do you think you need the help to help you get off what you're doing? And I'll share a little story. It came to my mind right now. One of the last conversations too I had with Carlos, I said, have you decided? Because I had already asked him this question. Well, what do you think you're going to need, son, to help you get off? And I remember the last conversation I said, have you decided what you think you would need to help? And he told me, yeah, Mom, I think I want to go to this little program and Jericho something. And I thought, well, wow. I said, well, let me know what we could do. But he met a girl and that kind of went out the window.
He wanted to get back.
But we want to get back. But back to your question is, if we make them feel like they're important because they feel unworthy, because however they got to where they're at, whether it was trauma, whether it was abuse, whether it was just life just kind of hit them in a wrong direction. And I think if we let them know, one, we're listening, and then let them choose, like, how can I help you? Giving them that option.
Absolutely. You mentioned that Carlos met a girl. He was also struggling for 5 years with addiction. And I'm sure that journey affected the family. It affected his loved ones. What do you wish that people understood about the complexities of trying to help out a loved one who is struggling with addiction, homelessness, and mental health symptoms? Because when you bring up the girl, my mind automatically goes to what society thinks and what I, as a social worker, think. What society thinks is, he's just trying to get he's only trying to get this instant gratification, and it's just that. No. This young man is trying to find love and affection and attention, and he's trying to connect with someone because that's what we as humans do. So it's not about that instant gratification trying to get his. It goes above and beyond that. So what would you tell these families, or help our viewers and our listeners understand what is the journey of how the family struggles knowing that their loved one is struggling with this addiction?
So I think as a family, as me, I truly know in my heart, Carlos knew he was loved. I knew he was loved, but he started searching for something as he got older. And I think being in a relationship that he thought that was his life, like he found like that's where he was going to be, I think he lost a sense of himself in that. And so his life kind of revolved around being in a relationship, and he thought that that's where he was going to be. So he lost I think he just lost himself in there. And me as a mom, I couldn't get it back. And by the time it got so far, it was so far. It would I don't think anything's ever too far gone to help, but I think I caught it at a time. So I would say, just the reassurance being, there. And
I know we were in this struggle
5 years
for a while, the last parts of Carlos' life, and he was in a relationship and slowly started to decline. And he lost it. I think they separated. He lost his car. He lost his phone. Just slowly started to lose things. People didn't want,
him around because
they didn't around, but all the family would try to help him in and out, bring him home, and then he would go back out and bring him out. And when we say go back out, that was usually he did drugs out on the street.
Right.
And so when he went out. And so that was kind of our battle. And I know so many other families are dealing with that.
And I say never give up. I struggle, and I'll be honest, I struggle with, should I brought him home when he was on his drugs?
Well, we did bring him.
But we did bring him home a lot. But he would leave. He would leave. So I would say just let him know they're loved. I mean, there's not even there's no wrong or right how to do it.
Try to get people the help they need.
Try to get them the help they need. I beat myself up all the time, Ramon, and I'm kind of going just off of my experience. what could I have done more? If I would have, if I would have looked for him every day, would it would have helped him?
Well, let's ask the conversation. Could you have done anything different?
Could I have done anything different? I don't.
Might have been able to, but that not necessarily
Doesn't
change the outcome.
exactly. I could have done. I
could have brought him back home and he went out the next day. And then this is the day that he used the contaminated supply and it was the same.
Yeah. So I could have taken him off the street. Sorry, honey, a month after he did this, but yet he could have went out like Dr. Hurt and he could have took the thing. So could we do more? We always could do more. We could have gone and seen him more, picked him up more, all that. But he had a mind of his own and he would just get up. Like I said on the news, I think I told them, I would go into places that average moms wouldn't even go in because people would call me and tell me, hey, he's stuck in here. Hey, he got beat up. Hey, this. And I did that, Ramon, for almost 4 years, babe, if not longer. And then I kind of gradually backed up because as a parent, you're like, okay, he's old enough. But then I always would, it never leaves you. It never leaves you. So yeah, you can always do more. You just keep loving them, giving them that hope. I mean, I always seen hope in his eyes. I always seen the struggle. And I know at the end he was ashamed when he got really bad.
Yeah.
I think you can always do something like that, answering it correctly.
To what you're saying is that, and to hopefully encourage somebody listening to this that might be going through the same thing is, not only like Loretta mentioned, keeping the hope, but don't ever give up.
Don't ever give up.
And because it gets tough, it gets hard. Nobody wants, going through addiction or somebody that is in addiction and chasing them around and trying to get them help and sober. And then it affects the rest of the family and it changes the whole dynamic of the family. But don't give up because I believe that there's still help and hope available for people. And that's one thing that I want, everybody to know is that we never gave up on Carlos. February 15th was the last time we seen him. And as a family, Loretta and I were the last people to be with him. And we stood out on the street talking to him until about 10 o'clock at night and trying to encourage him to get the help he needed and to, come home and get back to work. And unfortunately, that day never came. So,
and that's the best thing that you could say, man, because as a social worker, man, like I hear so many of these stories and I just have to I have to be there and I can't show these emotions that I get to show on this podcast. And a lot of the stories that I hear is that the family isn't there and that they don't show up for them. And it's the hardest thing to go ahead and just sit there and be okay with. And the fact that you guys never gave up, that you guys were always had an open door policy for him. It's I just thank you guys for loving your son.
Thank you. And thank you. He knew as he ever needed us, he could come. He could always listen.
He called us.
And,
he
never forgot our phone numbers. And, I never blocked. My kids used to tell me, Mom, you need to block all these unknown callers. And I'm like, no. And they'd be like, why, Mom? Because I don't know whenever he's going to stop me.
Could be Carlos.
It could be him. And they're like, Mom, you get all these unknown and you answer every call. And I did. And every time that number would come up, to this day, I'm like, and I'm like, okay, he's not here. It's not him,
But it doesn't take away from me even for a second that it might be Carlos. I'm assuming.
Never.
We don't fully understand why this all kind of happened to us. And a lot of how the foundation is moving forward has gone really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just taking it as it comes. But
I think what's so powerful is your love for Carlos, right? In life and after he left us. And I think kind of my follow-up with Ramon's question is also so many parents don't know what to do, right? They're not trained to treat addiction. They don't know how to help. They know how to love. And you all were so committed to your love, even though it was painful to love him in his struggles, right? You're going into places and you're guided in and you're fortified by your love for him to do anything it takes to try to be there for him. And I think there's so much pressure on parents to try to solve, right, something that is a disease, right? And most parents aren't doctors. And also that requires a lot of resources that aren't there. And so my second follow-up question is, what would you have wanted to be in place in terms of structures and systems so that Carlos could have actually gotten what he needed?
Well, that's what I mentioned earlier. Carlos he had his time on probation, and we had mentioned to his probation officer that we really felt like the help that he needed was a treatment program.
Right.
He needed to detox. He needed to get sober. He needed to have some counseling
and rehabilitation.
He needed some of that. And I believe that that's what's still important today. And I just believe we have to do better because, I honestly believe Carlos was failed. He was failed in that aspect. And I've been told before, well, these are the consequences to the choices. And, people have said some mean things.
Yeah.
That we've heard.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff that is told, especially with individuals that are burned out, is that these are natural consequences.
Yes.
Natural consequences.
Yes. I got that. Someone told me that. I told him the other day, I said, because everything's coming back, you hear so much. And I said, I literally heard someone say, well, and I know I heard it. Those are the consequences for the life he lived. I wanted to come out. Oh, you don't even know.
They were telling
their children. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Do that, you're going to be like that.
And that's not the case. That's ignorance. Sorry. I'm sorry to say it's totally ignorance. It's not being educated. It's not understanding. But, and doctor, to your question too, like Chris answered, is providing them a place where they could come where they don't feel judgment, because there's so many people out there struggling and to be able to come. But like Chris said, I do always say the system failed. They say, oh, as a parent, if you raise them different, but you know what? You can raise your kid to the T, don't do this. And because I have a friend that just called me the other day, hey, can you help me with my son? She moved out of state and she sent him off to college. He, I don't want to go, but he had every opportunity that life can give to him. As a Hispanic family, we struggled a little bit, but, we did the best we can. And, he winded up, living on the street.
But I think there needs to be more resources available to families and especially to the individuals that are struggling.
Yes.
There needs to be more mental health treatment. There needs to be more counseling programs. Maybe if they're court appointed or not court appointed, I just think locking these people up, letting them out, and we just have to do better as a community.
Yeah. And there's right now, at the time of this recording, there are some resources that exist. There is the Telecare Recovery Station on Kentucky Avenue, and people go as long as they're with a mental health provider, they're able to go ahead and go there, get sober up for the night, and then the recovery team will go ahead and get them connected to either Good Samaritan Hospital to go ahead and do a detox program, or things like that. There are things that exist. However, those programs could definitely improve. Care Court, the passing of SB 43, what is a recent one as well as Prop 1. Those are recent passings. And again, we're seeing a lot of the struggles of that in real time. And again, that's where a lot of our government officials could go ahead and come in, have conversations with the LaMedicas and be able to go ahead and have those conversations with this foundation and be able to go ahead and go from there and hear it from them. If you guys are going to hear it from mental health professionals, hear it from the families, because these are the ones that understand, the realities of what are happening. And we could go ahead and provide the research that Dr. Herrera is providing, and that will help as well. However, these are the faces that are really being able to go ahead and see what is happening, because it did happen to them. It affected them to the core, and it's still affecting people. And that is, just going back to, especially as we conclude this episode, you turned your pain into purpose through the Forever 34 Foundation. What was a specific moment that you realized, I have to start this organization? And now, what is the primary mission?
Well,
Go ahead.
I just want to say before Loretta speaks, tying into what you had just said, not only do we need more help and resources for the individual, but for the family.
Yes.
And so after we experienced this, we searched and we reached out and we called places and we were trying to find who's doing anything that has to do with fentanyl. How can we get help as a family? And we didn't find that. And so I think that alone is kind of like, hey, we got to do something, like
develop support groups,
and just be able to,
Yeah. So, as Chris mentioned, after Carlos passing, and I found out it was fentanyl poisoning. So I reached out to our community and I was like, there has to be an organization. There has to be somebody that can talk to me about this fentanyl. Cause I heard of it, but you don't learn of it until it directly affects you, right? Is that some of us are. So I reached out to our community and I'm like searching, who does this? Does anybody know what fentanyl? Do you bring awareness? How can I collaborate? I just lost a son. I need to figure out how I can give back, and there was nobody out there, Ramon.
Well, there's
Dr. Rex.
Few people.
Well, I shouldn't. Well,
it's hard for us to get.
No. How I feel. There was nobody out there. I'm sorry that I found. I called so many entities and there was nobody out there. And I'm not downing anybody for what I was looking for. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to put anybody down for what they do, for what I felt like the awareness of the fentanyl, the education, the connecting, collaborating to say, hey, help me understand why my son died. And so I couldn't find anything. So I told my husband, I said, we have to educate ourselves on this. What is this fentanyl? What is it doing? I found out that it was the number one leading cause of death from ages 18 to 45. And that's just what statistically someone put to the CDC or the DEA, right? So I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, the number one leading cause? I thought heart disease was the number one leading cause. Like
still is
overall, but but I'm just, my mind's going there, and I know it's still, the age. So I'm thinking this is crazy. Then I found out in our community, since 2019, we had 1,241 deaths to when Carlos passed. I'm like, and he's one of those numbers. What are we doing? So then the news kept saying, oh, the fentanyl crisis, but it's declining. So, and everybody was just like brushing it under the wood. I think 297 deaths are too many deaths. So I told my husband.
And I know too that, like Jasmine Baines, she went and secured some funding and brought it to Kern County, and they got it. I think it was, I don't know, $8 million. And then that money was distributed. If I'm correct, it was distributed in 28 as the ending of
24.
And it was distributed to different entities, some medical, some police, and I don't want to take away from what they're doing, because I think that they have been, doing drug bust and doing different things that people have been doing. But that's a lot of money to not even mention National Fentanyl Awareness Day. National Fentanyl Awareness Day was August 29th. I remember seeing Dr. Herrera. She with a bunch of flags and I said, oh, I wish we could have went to that, but it would not work.
You will join us year, and I hope you'll join us at our Overdose Awareness Symposium. And we would love to feature you all as guest speakers at the university and just continue these conversations.
That'd be great. So, in the future, with that being said, all the funding as of now, what Loretta and I are doing, we fund out all of our own pockets, but we're working on a larger scale. We think that we need to raise the roof on this awareness. And we would like to have billboards, and we want to have some commercials and things where people can see
a life story,
and really get the message out there.
Wow. Well, let's talk more.
Yeah, you got support from me as well. I mean,
yes, we want to center your ideas, and you all know, sadly, from personal experience, what do you think others need to know to be able to have the preparation, the support, the connection, the community to move through this and to save their loved ones.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Herrera. We appreciate that. And we just thank you guys, and just, I told Chris, I can't script it. I got to just say what comes to, there's no way we live it. So, but that's how our foundation is. And our mission, I just told my husband, our mission is to just raise the awareness, educate, connect, and collaborate with whomever we need, give hope, and just create a safe, non-judgment environment.
And we've been working on the prevention side of it. So when we do find people who want help or need help, we can refer them to those
We do have naloxone. We were able to, because we're a registered nonprofit 501c3, I'm learning that term. So if I say it backwards, I'm learning,
Went straight to the distributor.
So they told me, why are you going through any other organization? Well, I said, well, this is all new to me. She goes, well, if you're a nonprofit, you can just come directly to us. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm barely learning. I had to get my certificate and I'm learning how to administer the naloxone, which I found it was very easy. But, we have to have the certificates and all that to make sure I'm not going to harm anybody, which she's like, well, you can't. And I'm like, well, you just got to make sure. So we're just trying to just be out there and just, our foundation is just.
And we received some from Dr.
Yeah, I love little Black kids. Everybody asks,
we would be happy to donate more to your organization.
We get asked all the time. And I'm like, they're not mine because I keep it on display. And I say, I got that from Dr. Herrera. And they're like, do you know where to get them? And I said, no, I'm barely learning all this. I don't know. But yeah, we're just out here just wanting to make the awareness, and whoever we can collaborate with and to be able to say, hey, you know what? How could you come alongside us and help us out and fulfilling the mission is for our community. This is for our community. It's not for Chris or I, like I shared with somebody last night or yesterday. If it was about me, I said, I wouldn't even, but it's not for me, or it's for me, it'd be different.
It's an honor of honor.
It's an honor to honor his life.
It's his legacy.
It's his legacy. And if it just helps one person, then it's all worth it. And the work we're doing is just to continue his life and just continue to collaborate and be stronger with other people.
We just want to thank everybody else in the community that might be watching this that has helped us along the way.
Yes.
The pieces of the puzzle are fitting and the dots are being connected. And all the people that we've met in such a short amount of time. And like one instance, we were able in 2025 to speak to 800 students at a junior high.
Sequoia Junior High.
With these 7th graders and 8th graders. And we were able to share Carlos' story and then interact with the students to see what they knew about the dangers of fentanyl. And it was really touching to see. And we're planting the seeds out there, and hopefully that's going to help them. And so now as we're speaking, we're working with some other people through the schools. So we got a couple high schools we're working with to do,
presentations
stuff. And so we're really excited about that, just to get out there and,
what's presentations?
we know it's making little marks in the community, but we know that it's making a great impact, because if one life is being saved, then it's all worth it.
And we're doing Walk for Lives. I was honored to be collaborating with a few other mothers too. So I started that last year. Well, I didn't start it. I partnered with them. They had already started it. My sister had heard about it on Facebook after Carlos passed. She was like, sis, look they're doing a fentanyl awareness walk. And so I United Against Fentanyl. One of the girls, there was a lady here who started it, her and her sister. It was the baby that lost his life. I don't want to say names because I don't know if I could say names. Well, it's public. Yeah. So baby Zeke, the aunt for baby Zeke, and then Jeremiah's mom, Sherry, they went ahead and they started it last year, but they were having a little struggles in getting it promoted. And so I came along and I said, and nothing that I did, I joined them. And I said, hey, would you mind if I joined you? I just recently lost my son to fentanyl. And I think it would be a great, asset to come along. And so we were able to start this, and we do a walk this will be our 2nd annual. Wow. So we go out now and we just share Carlos' story like we're doing here. We have a lot of vendors that come and table. We have Bakersfield Recovery, a lot of them that just come out. I want to use a lot of names. I don't know if I can. Yeah. So, we have Bakersfield Recovery comes out. We have Aegis, John with Aegis. Jordy. I love John. Yeah. I don't, and I believe everybody comes to my path for a purpose. Yeah. I do. And I love John. John's like, Loretta, whatever you. The probation, I got to meet Justin. Yeah, Justin.
Catholic Church.
Yeah, so we met all these people.
County Outreach.
Yes, so Kern County, yes, they're sending. So we just collaborate. We're not, like I tell people, they're like, do I work with you? And I'm like, no, nobody works we're really learning this. We're just collaborating, with people. So I don't want to baffle on. You guys ask.
I think you're doing I think you're doing so much at the same time in a time of your own grief. And it's truly incredible and speaks to the power of a parent's love, right? Because not only did you take it upon yourself to get a lot of education about an issue that you previously didn't have to know anything about, but then you said, I'm going to start a nonprofit organization, something new to me. I'm going to engage in prevention. I'm going to figure out how to navigate the school systems here, which is complicated to do, to be able to offer these, not only to students, but also to parents. And at the same time, I want to support parents in their grief and provide connection support. And I want to raise community awareness by putting on events. And, right, Ramon's added something else to your plate about talking to county supervisors, talking to state assembly members and state senators to talk about what is needed and what more can be done for communities like ours to prevent death. So,
Loretta just met with Leticia Perez.
Met her at an event, and I went up to her because I was like, Lord, is this where I'm supposed to go? So I just went. I got invited to another event. I wasn't tabling. I wasn't sharing anything. They asked me, can you just come out to support me? Yeah. So I said, yeah, I'll come out to support you. I said, Condace, just go support the person. They asked. Yeah. And so we were there, and I seen her at the side of my eyes, and something kept telling me, go introduce yourself, go. And I'm like, no, this is not the time and place. It's not for me. And it just so happened, she was coming out and I was going this way, and I looked at her, I said, hi. And she said, hi. And I said, I'm Loretta. She was, I know who you are. She was, get my assistant and I want to talk to you. Mm-hmm. So she gave me 30 minutes, and I'm talking 30 minutes on the dot. So I got to sit there and she goes, how are you doing this? And I just got to share like I share with you guys. And she's like, I want to be a part of it.
I think a lot of people are willing to help.
Yeah, and we're just trying to take the help. Like I said, I just want
good is going to come out of loss of Carlos' life. So
I don't want his life to be in vain. I just want to keep saying his name and saying his name and saying his name and saying his name so that we will. I don't think I'll ever forget. You just feel like, do I forget him? Do I remember what he smells like? Do I remember that? When I go out, it helps. It really does, Dr. Herrera. It helps me feel connected more to him. Like I'm living I'm living his life to what I'm doing. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like I told him, that's where I find some of my happiness, my peace. I find my peace in it. And, that's where I do. And it kind of affects my older son. He's like, here he is again, it's all about Carlos again, and it's not, he's fun, but everybody handles grief different. And my son, he's handling it different. And I don't know. It's just tough.
It's hard. You guys are doing really important work. And you guys are having you're good. You guys are doing really important work. You guys have been able to go ahead and make a 501c3 out of all this loss, all of this grief. You guys are providing resources and education. You're having intentional conversations to finally work towards destigmatizing a lot of the struggles that not just Bakersfield is experiencing, but the rest of Kern County, the rest of the world is experiencing. And honestly, you guys should be really proud of the work that you guys are doing, because you guys could take some time and just grieve. But this is the way that you guys are grieving.
Yeah. Thank you, Ramon.
And
Thank you.
The reality is that you guys don't owe this to the world. You guys don't have to do this.
No.
And you guys are doing this out of the kindness of your heart for his memory. And you guys are doing something that's bigger than you. And I just thank you both for that.
Thank you for having us.
I think what it says about your family, that in the hardest year of your life, you have done some of the most powerful work possible that you could offer to our community and really address this gap where there's a need for conversation, there's a need for resources, and there's a need for a space to heal.
Yeah. As we wrap up, there is one key message or piece of advice that you'd want our listeners to take away about destigmatizing mental health and being able to go ahead and have a better understanding of the Carlos Marquez Forever 34 Foundation? What would that be?
I just would like people to know that no matter what struggles people are going through, with drugs and alcohol and what's happening out there with mental health, that their lives matter and they have a story and it's their story to tell. And would just want the community to know that they are important people also. And I don't think we need to forget about them or leave them out. But I honestly believe it starts with me. And I try to say, how can I do better? And I just believe we have to do better, not only individually, but corporately together as a community, and figure out how, we can come alongside and continue to help the people struggling out there. I want people to know there's hope and there is help available. And I'm just praying in the future that there'll be more resources and things available to those that need it.
Yes, I agree. I always say their lives matter. And it's their story to tell and not ours to assume. And never forget that. Just because you see the person out there doesn't mean they're nobodies. And that it's our responsibility just to reach out and say, hey, how could I help you? And not say, oh, look at that's the choice they made. Yeah, it might initially be. But really, it's their story to tell, not ours to assume. And it's our responsibility as a community to say, how can I help you? And I just want people to know that our foundation is here to help whatever we can. We want to give you that hope. We want to give you that safe space. No judgment. Just come in just as you are, as raw, and have a conversation. You want to cry, laugh, whatever. So we're here for because we care. We want to give you that hope.
Dr. Herrera, any key messages, myths that you could think of, anything that I probably didn't ask that I didn't get to that you would want to go ahead and add as we conclude?
I think just putting our arms around our children, whether they're young or, they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and they're going through something, knowing that they're loved. We never have enough opportunities to tell them that we love them. And especially in the times of their deepest struggles, and you guys are a living example of that. The door is open. I'm here. I'll follow you into the streets. That love is so apparent because we just never have enough chances, and we never know when that last moment's going to be. And being in relationship and communicating our love for them is the most important thing that we can do. We can't control all the outcomes of their decisions. We can't control the systems that are broken or are trying to catch up. We're trying to build more infrastructure in this community for treatment resources. It's just not fast enough for how people are struggling. But that our love is real and present and made known. And holding on to that is, I think, so important for families.
Yeah.
The most we can offer.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
I think my final piece would be that the same way that you see my makeshift podcast here, there are a lot of organizations that I guess you could say are makeshift as well, but they do it with a lot of passion and love for what they do and why they do it. And that says a lot for you guys as well. What Hope in the Valley does, what my podcast does, what your organization does, and what so many other organizations have. And the reality is that there are resources, but we're figuring it out because it's a really quickly changing just topic.
Mm-hmm.
And substances, this isn't what, this isn't your stuff that you would take in the 90s.
Mm-mm.
This isn't the stuff that you would take in the 70s.
No.
It's different. It's a different beast now. And we're trying to evolve with what's evolving. And we're trying to make shift just conversations, but they're impactful and they're important. And I would just continue to not give up. And the fact that you guys are doing what you're doing, it just speaks volumes of who you are. Don't stop this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us on your podcast.
We won't. I'll keep saying it till
Maybe we can.
my turn to go.
Yes. Yeah.
Whenever you want us, we'll come and just share from our hearts. It just comes. It's like, oh, we can't script it. We live it. Because everybody tells me, write it down. And I'm like, started doing that. I'm like, wait a minute.
not here. It's authentic. It comes out of your heart and it pours out, and it's so clear your love for him and who he was. And when you share the stories of his life, it is clear what a vibrant and loved person this was. And how can we all come together, like Ramon's saying, whether it's, small nonprofits, large, or just people, parents in the community, so that we can lift his message, which is he loved life, and what can we do to make sure everyone else gets to keep living another day?
Absolutely.
Yes, thanks. Absolutely.
And elected officials, when talking to you, speak to families like the LaMedicas. They are the ones that understand and what's going on, and just listen to them. So, but once again, this was Destigmatized Mental Health Podcast, Hope in the Valley series, highlighting fentanyl epidemic and the Carlos Marquez Forever 34 Foundation with Loretta and Chris LaMedica. You can share this episode and past episodes of Destigmatized Mental Health Podcast, Hope in the Valley series, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, and we're also on YouTube. Chris, Loretta, and my awesome co-host, Dr. Herrera, thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.